When Bek-Jean Stewart was given a guitar to keep her out of trouble, no one ever thought how significant a moment it would be in her life. She was only 8 years old at the time, trying to come to terms with her parents' separation and facing many difficult years ahead growing up in St Mary's in the outer western suburbs of Sydney. Life was tough for this rebellious teenager, but through it all she took refuge in her music. Years later, and the end result has been 2 solo albums and an internationally successful hit song. Stateline caught up with Bek-Jean Stewart on the eve of the launch of her latest album, Winter Summer Suburban Exile.
I'm sitting below this blue Sydney skyline. My front porch.
I've always written songs from a very young age.
Expensive houses laid out like the rivers of life.
Poetry for me was huge when I was a kid, and I had hyperactivity as a child, so I couldn't ever focus on reading novels or anything, but I remember picking up a poetry book and being just so blown out that someone can write one sentence and it just sums up everything in my world. That was just, the concept of that was amazing. So I started reading more poetry and in turn started writing songs kind of, you know, in a poetic style, and that was just, it was it for me. It was gold. That was my ticket, you know, out of my kind of life, really.
I'm not lonely no more. I'm smoking again. Some things never change.
My own fantasy of making up my stories. It just took me out of my reality, I think, and I really needed that. And it is something that I've used my whole life, and thankfully my creative process has worked that way. And yeah, so it's always been escapism.
So low they block the sun. Bruises on my wrist, air not from you.
I grew up out in the western suburbs. I had a pretty tough childhood.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
My parents split up and other things, so I pretty much retreated into songs. I was a very, classed as the kind of bad kid and always in trouble. I got expelled from a lot of schools.
Blackbird, blackbird in my tree, reminds me of how I used to be.
I think now, if there was any adult who really kind of took the time out and cared and really saw past my bad behaviour, they would have seen that I was a hurt little kid, that I needed help, and that never kind of eventuated.
St Mary's bells will ring out the way I heard them ring out without you.
Well, St Mary's bells is really the essence of Winter Summer. For me, it couldn't have been anywhere else but St Mary's that I did that film clip. And I said, okay, I want to go here, here, here and here, because that's what I did as a child. So it was about the railway, it was about the tattoo parlour across the road from the railway where I got my first tattoo when I was 15. It was about the fish and chip shop on the other side of the road where I got my chips. And then it was about Church Street, where it was the drag. It was where I kind of hung.
You're the flame around my choking fire, evidence I made you cry.
I could have, as easily as anybody else, got stuck in that cycle. I'm just very grateful that I had an extremely strong will as a child and a teenager, and I still have a strong will.
Walk me towards the shiny sky, to hold your hand. Today is a new day, a new morning, spent here with you next to me.
It's self-therapy, and it has been my whole life, and I think without it I would have really, I don't know if I would be here. I think that songs have really saved my life and my writing, and so it's therapy, continuous therapy. Walk me towards the shining sky, to hold your hand. Today is a new day, a new moment, spent here with you next to me.